did Bill Maher just go completely woke on useful idiots?
The Palestinian people should know your leaders and the useful idiots on college campuses who are their allies are not doing you any favors by keeping alive the river to the sea myth. I mean, where do you think Israel is going? Spoiler alert, nowhere.
You know, guys, sometimes you just have to give someone credit. Now, I've done a lot of videos on Bill Maher. Of course, I did a video recently where Bill was featured, or at least some things that he was said was featured, but this time it feels a little bit different. I mean, it could be because of what you're about to see now.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Jesus was Palestinian! Jesus was Palestinian! Jesus was Palestinian! Jesus was Palestinian! Jesus was Palestinian!
The normal type of stuff that the left does, interrupts you, gets in the way of the highway when you try to drive down it. Of course, interrupting while Santa Claus is talking to children. Of course, families are out there Christmas shopping. School is just let out in most places. Kids are obviously home, Christmas vacation. And of course, this time of the year, what people really want is peace. Now, I understand that you could probably use peace as a bit of a, how do I say this, as a bit of a parable for this video here, because obviously in the Middle East, people want some peace. But then again, though, that peace has got to be negotiated. And I got to give Bill credit for this little monologue that he put up on Real Time with Bill Maher, his own show. But before we get there, I need to say this. This time of year, as I mentioned earlier, nobody wants to be bothered. People just want to get along. People just want to be able to Christmas shop, be able to do what it is they want to do. They don't need politics and movements injected into their daily lives. This is one of the few times of the year where people on the left and the right, you would think, might be able to at least give themselves a good old-fashioned nod like that there, or, hey, what's up, this, that, and the other. But, of course, that's probably not going to happen. We're that divided as a nation, which, of course, I'll talk about a little bit more towards the end of this video and kind of preview the next video and give you guys some updates like always, because I wasn't able to get any videos out this weekend. But, of course, I want to give you guys my schedule for the remainder of the year. But still, though, this situation between Israel, Gaza, Palestinians, yeah, it's obviously getting to the point where people are beginning to get irritated with this. So I figure I would let Bill explain it a little bit better and I add some additional context. But there is something that, quite frankly, I do, in fact, disagree with, which I will talk about a little bit further in the video. But let's roll this first clip. Once again, it's through HBO, so therefore copyright claim is probably going to be put in, so there will be a header over the next minute and 4 seconds.
Things change. Countries, boundaries, empires. Palestine was under the Ottoman Empire for 400 years, but today an ottoman is something you put under your feet. The city of Byzantium became the city of Constantinople, became Istanbul. Not everybody liked it, but you can't keep arguing the call forever. The Irish had the entire island to themselves, but the British were starting an empire, and, well, the Irish lost their tip. They blew each other up over it for 30 years, but eventually everybody comes to an accommodation, except the Palestinians. Was it unjust that even a single Arab family was forced to move upon the founding of the Jewish state? Yes, but it's also not rare, happening all through.
Now, I do find it funny that a guy who's more of a classical lib, like, say, Bill Maher, is explaining this in terms of, well, it happens pretty much all the time. Nations get conquered. People eventually move on. You know, in World War II, you know, of course, you know, he talks about this a little bit more in the next segment, which I'll play for you guys in a second. But here's the thing. Nations do, in fact, conquer nations. Now, I can already hear somebody saying, you warmongering prick, you warmongering jerk. I can already hear somebody saying that in the comment section, but please bear with me. At the end of World War I, Germany, who, by the way, did not want to accept the fact that they had lost the war, they did not want to sign the Treaty of Versailles, but eventually they would do that. Of course, Germany at that time frame would go through all kinds of political movements, and eventually National Socialism would rise, or Adolf Hitler would take advantage of the National Socialist Party. At the time, it was also known as the Thule Society, which, by the way, was the original name. And, of course, eventually they became the Nazis. Now, obviously, this is a bad thing, and, of course, it would lead to World War II. Of course, if you lived in the Soviet Union post the Russian Revolution, you probably went through Stalin's purges, or, I mean, I'm not saying anybody who's watching this content was alive at that time, but if you actually read history, you'll see that in those days, the Soviet Union was pretty brutal. Not really a whole lot of difference between the two. And I'm not here to compare dictators or anything like that. However, when World War II ended, the Germans, for the most part, they were held responsible, which of course they should have been held responsible. But still, though, the German people, they had to live with that stigma. They had to live with that through the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. Eventually, there was an apology for the Holocaust, all that type of stuff there. However, the thing about this particular region of the world is that this particular region of the world has never exactly liked those who occupy a certain strip of land who have a certain star on their flag. They never have. And of course, we're going to be going through that in this video, especially some of the other things that Bill did not mention. But Bill, I think, did do a pretty good job of explaining why it is that these types of things do, in fact, happen. However, it's usually the causality of why it is that occurs. So when I see a tweet from Cenk Uygur, who basically acts like the Palestinians are innocent little babies and that Israel is just wiping out people, I get a little bit irritated with that, especially given the fact that everything that comes out of his mouth is just a good old-fashioned lie. The guy has obviously never read history. I mean, this same guy obviously denies that the Armenian genocide even happened, and he even named his media company TYT after the Young Turks, the name of the group that actually perpetrated the genocide. So maybe it's just these people, these loonies, these lefties, maybe they're getting their education from a bunch of idiots online, of course, Cenk being one of them, or it could just be a natural discontent and natural hatred that has been around since the beginning of time. Let's watch a little bit more and I'll further explain what Bill did not.
It's one of the most powerful countries in the world with the $500 billion economy, the world's second largest tech sector after Silicon Valley, and nuclear weapons. They're here. They like their bagel with a schmear. Get used to it. What's happening to Palestinians today is horrible, and not just in Gaza, in the West Bank, too. But wars end with negotiation. And what the media glosses over is it's hard to negotiate when the other side's bargaining position is you all die and disappear. I mean, the chant from the river to the sea. Yeah, let's look at the map. Here's the river. Here's the sea. Oh, I see. It means you get all of it. Not just the West Bank, which was basically the original UN partition deal you rejected because you wanted all of it and always have, even though it's indisputably also the Jews' ancestral homeland. And so you attacked and lost, and attacked again and lost, and attacked again and lost. As my friend Dr. Phil says, how's that working?
Go ahead and kind of break this down a little bit further. And by the way, I could already hear somebody in the comment section saying you're going to shield for Israel right now. No, I'm just looking at a group of people who've always found themselves in pretty bad positions. And of course, some of these positions they found themselves in, I'm not going to lie to you, kind of did themselves. I know that YouTube's probably going to put the yellow dollar sign on rather than the green dollar sign on, as I explained to you guys. Oh, what was it? Pharaoh, Ramses II, he had the Jews enslaved, and he figured he would keep them enslaved. After a while, of course, they would eventually leave. Moses would lead them out. You had Sennacherib. He tried to eradicate the Jews. You also had who else? That's right. The king of Tyre. Also one of the Jews gotten rid of. Oh, yeah, that's right. We go further into the future, and you find out that Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonians, they conquered Israel. Of course, some would actually argue that they kind of did it to themselves then. And then to go on top of that, you then had the Greeks eventually occupy, and eventually you had Antiochus IV, Antiochus the Epiphanes, the Maccabean revolt, which is, by the way, the holiday Hanukkah is meant to commemorate that. Fact of the matter is that these people have either A, been enslaved, or they have been almost systematically annihilated because, quite frankly, there are people out there who live in the Middle East who do not like them. But still at the same time, is what Israel doing an actual genocide? Are they actually eradicating a people? I don't think that's the case. I think what Israel is trying to do is eradicate Hamas itself. And obviously, in war, you're going to have these problems where civilians do, in fact, get killed. It does happen. So if you're protesting that, then okay, I understand that. But I want you to go ahead and know right now that when wars occur, bad things do, in fact, happen. Maybe you should think about that before you decide that you want to cross over into a country and kill hundreds of their civilians. There's obviously a few things that that Bill missed there, but don't worry, we'll get to them in this next section. But the thing is this here. This entire thing could have been avoided if a certain terrorist group, a certain rebel faction, wherever they might want to call themselves, which I personally view them as a terrorist group, had not decided to attack people during a concert and kill hundreds of them. Also, not to mention the fact that they also took U.S. hostages too. But then again, though, it is kind of their MO. As I said before, they've been trying to conquer the Israelis for centuries. There's also a lot of other things that in the Middle East that have occurred over the years as far as conquest is concerned. I mean, they did conquer parts of Europe at one time, Spain included. You got that there. Of course, you had the Crusades. Many people have also argued the validity of, or at least who was right and who was wrong during the Crusades. We'll probably do a video on that next year, especially when we start doing things in video essay format where a few bits of history are going to be spliced in. But the thing is this here, Israelis, the Jews themselves, they've been a people who people have been trying to conquer ever since the beginning of time. I mean, I listed off Ramses II, of course, that right there being Pharaoh, and of course Sennacherib and the king of Tyre, and of course you had Antiochus Epiphanes, and of course I forgot to mention the Romans. I mean, I really feel bad about not mentioning the Romans, because the Romans, for the most part, had these people enslaved as well. Fact of the matter is, this is a group of people who, for whatever reason, has always been the ire of everybody's anger for some odd reason. And I can already, like I said, I can already hear somebody in the comment section saying, shill for Israel, which is not exactly what's going on. I'm just simply calling a spade a spade. But let's let Bill explain a little bit further, and I'll get really deep on the other side.
The world, and mostly what people do is make the best of it. After World War II, 12 million ethnic Germans got shoved out of Russia and Poland and Czechoslovakia because being German had become kind of unpopular. 1 million Greeks were shoved out of Turkey in 1923, 1 million Ghanaians out of Nigeria in 1983, almost 1 million French out of Algeria in 1962. Nearly 1 million Syrian refugees moved to Germany 8 years ago. Was that a perfect fit? And no one knows more about being pushed off land than the Jews, including being almost wholly kicked out of every Arab country they once lived in. Yes, TikTok fans, ethnic cleansing happened both ways. In Fiddler on the Roof, the family is always moving to stay one step ahead of the Cossacks, but they deal with it. When they're leaving Anatevka, they say, hey, it wasn't so great anyway. Come on, like other countries don't have roofs you could fiddle on? Now, that's not how they really felt, but they were coping. They coped, because sometimes that's all you can do. History is brutal, and humans are not good people. History's sad and full of...
Now, really quick, before I go any further, and I really wish that Bill had explained this, there is a difference between conquest and what we do here in the United States. You see, people like Jink, people like Jimmy Dore, the radical left type, the Blame America crowd, Hassan Piker, Jink's nephew. These people believe that the United States just conquers like crazy. Well, let me give you some examples of, or let me just use some of their examples of America conquering other nations. We'll take Mexico. Mexico, of course, had this land, which is here in the United States at one point in time. It was under Mexico's banner, that there being New Mexico, Texas, Arizona, California, some of the additional western lands. During the Mexican War, we defeated them. After that, we actually conquered all of Mexico, but then we turned right back right after we basically conquered it, because that was our prize for winning. If we really truly want to take over, we could have controlled all of modern-day Mexico. We didn't do that. Instead, we cut the land in half, took half of it, of course, that there being Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and, of course, California, some of those additional lands. And, of course, you've got people who still live out there who believe that they're still in Mexico, when obviously they're not. And we chose to pay off all of Mexico's debt. That doesn't sound like a conquest. That sounds like a treaty. Very weird. In Germany, after World War II, we could have actually conquered Germany as a whole, but yet we actually allowed Stalin to take East Germany and pretty much all of Eastern Europe. And eventually, West Germany, for the most part, democratized. Wasn't conquered. We have a base there, of course, a very large base, but it wasn't really conquered. What else? Oh, yeah, the Native Americans. The Native Americans were wiping themselves out long, and I mean long, before we even decided to move in. Of course, the Indian Wars were a bad thing. Of course, some of their gripes are legitimate. But still, at the same time, we've told them they could have back the land. All you got to do is just pay us for it because, we'll sell it right back to you. Now, granted, they may seem a little bit screwed up, but what do these people choose to do on these reservations? They choose to put up casinos and stuff. You guys kind of see the hypocrisy here? It's almost as if to say it's something for these people to bitch and complain and whine about. Now, I think Bill's starting to wake up to the fact that really, for the most part, the only thing that the radical left functions to do is just complain. That's just kind of who these people are, just a great big giant bunch of whiners. And most of these people, of course, are obviously ignorant. I'm glad to see that Bill has gotten somewhat woke on this topic. Let's watch this last bit.
A paraglider isn't a time machine. People get moved and, yes, colonized. Nobody was a bigger colonizer than the Muslim army that swept out of the Arabian desert and took over much of the world in a single century.
There's a reason why I titled this video, Bill Maher versus Useful Idiots. You see, here's the thing. We are a generation that has cell phones, and these cell phones have got the ability to pretty much access whatever you want. You can download YouTube, you can download historical apps, great courses, all that type of stuff there. Oh yeah, that's right. You can even do your homework on your cell phone. You see, these cell phones are all hooked up to the internet, whether you got an iPhone, whether you got a Google or a Pixel or whatever the hell Samsung's coming out with or whatever LG's coming out with. I use Apple primarily. You've got this thing that's got this thing called Google in it. Just hit it, which, by the way, Jink and them, when they get upset, they scream and holler. Just Google it if you don't have the answers available or if you want them to actually explain something. They just scream at you, Google it. All you have to do is just simply hit it, Safari, Google, whatever app you have, Chrome, whatever pops up. Just type in the word Israel. Type in Israel, Gaza Strip. Just type in anything like that. And of course, it normally takes you to like a Wikipedia article where you can find out exactly when said nation was created. You see, most of these people who are going to these college campuses, who are screaming and hollering about free Palestine or queers for Palestine or Israel's the KKK or it's the apartheid state or anything like that, the vast majority of these people don't do any research. I mean, you figure for a generation that is hooked on cell phones, they would know just simply to go to their favorite little app, Google, which is pretty obvious that it's not their favorite app. If it was their favorite app, they might have known this. You would see that these people would not be so idiotic. A lot of this is good old-fashioned laziness. They don't want to learn anything. They're just going along with the group. They find some people who are pissed off. They feel bad for them. Oh, God, they've been oppressed. They join in because they think it's cool to do. But once again, we got to point it out. I mean, guys, go back to just think about what I said earlier. Ramses II, Sennacherib, you're talking King of Tyre, Antiochus IV, the Romans, all these people, Nebuchadnezzar, all these people who tried to conquer Israel or did, in fact, enslave the Jewish people at one point in time. And then you fast forward to the 20th century because these people love to talk about Hitler, yet they never actually did any research on World War II itself. You would find out that pretty much everybody in World War II and post-World War II, which, by the way, also includes Mao, and it also includes that guy in Cuba, Castro, and Che Guevara, all these communists, these radical leftists, Benito Mussolini, a fascist, Giovanni Gentili. By the way, they all got that crap from Marxism, which means that, of course, it's all left-wing, meaning that Nazis were also left-wing too. I advise you guys look into it. Don't worry, we'll do more videos too, and you guys can listen to my my sexy voice when I talk about it. But all you got to do is just do a little bit of research to see the actual years when the conflicts occurred and see what the actual outcomes were, especially when it comes to treaties. When these people scream from the river to the sea, what they're really saying is that they want genocide of those who live in Israel who are Jewish. That is what they are actually saying. That is what they want to do. They want to completely eradicate an entire race. And one more thing, and I got to point this out one final time because I have to keep saying it every time I do a video on this. The people who live in Gaza, the Palestinians, they want all of the land. And Israel has ceded land in every single conflict. They've done this so that way, and they hope and pray that maybe someday, I don't know, maybe the Palestinians will stop being such a great big giant headache. It's bad enough that they have to deal with that. It's bad enough that people here in the United States have got to deal with useful idiots on a regular basis, especially during Christmas.
A paraglider isn't a time machine. People get moved and, yes, colonized. Nobody was a bigger colonizer than the Muslim army that swept out of the Arabian desert and took over much of the world in a single century. There's a reason Saudi Arabia's flag is a sword. Kosovo was the cradle of Christian Serbia. Then it became Muslim. They fought a war about it in the 90s, but stopped. They didn't keep it going for 75 years. There were deals on the table to share the land called Palestine in 1947, 93, 95, 98, 2000, 2008, and East Jerusalem could have been the capital of a Palestinian state that today might look more like Dubai than Gaza. Arafat was offered 95% of the West Bank and said no. The Palestinian people should know your leaders and the useful idiots on college campuses who are their allies are not doing you any favors by keeping alive the river to the sea myth. I mean, where do you think Israel is going? Spoiler alert, nowhere.
Really quick, before we go into the final stretch of this video, I need to go ahead and kind of explain what useful idiot is one more time. Useful idiot is basically what we would call a non-player character, NPC, like a video game where you have basically, it's one of those characters that you shoot, like if you play Call of Duty or if you're playing like World of Warcraft or whatever. It's one of the characters that that's just standing out there. Usually it's one of the people that you've got to kill, one of the targets or whatnot in a game like that. Yuri Bezmenov talks about this. I'll try to leave a lecture or two every time this entire topic comes up. We'll probably have a much broader explanation next year when we actually start doing video essays. But basically, useful idiots are people that like the state will use to try to help get a point across. Protesters, people who don't know what the hell is really and truly going on, reactionaries, those types of people. Guys, at one point in time, I used to start these videos out. You guys can go back and look at all the old content. I used to start these videos out with the line from the movie They Live. I have come here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum. There was another movie clip that I used to use, or actually a few, but one of the main ones I used to love to use the most was that line from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Here, I'll play it for you.
It doesn't tell us.
It tells me that goose-stepping morons like yourself should try reading books instead of burning them.
It tells me that goose-stepping morons like yourself should be reading books instead of burning them. It tells me that goose-stepping morons like yourself should just simply, guess what? Hold out your phone, unlock it, go to Google, and type in the information. There are a lot of articles out there, a lot of historical facts out there that you guys need to learn before you decide to go out there and start wrecking everybody's holiday, before you guys go out there and start wrecking everybody's Christmas, especially now that they've got their kids. They're out there with full time, walking their children around, going to the mall, going Christmas shopping, going to go see Santa Claus. Even Bill Maher has had enough of you people. And that right there should have been your sign. But then again, though, we are dealing with mental illness here. With that right there being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and halt this video now and just go ahead and say that I really like how Bill did this. I normally don't praise Bill Maher, but guess what? I got to praise him on this one right here. With that right there being said, though, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.